Congratulations, Engon! I don't think I've ever seen flying like that.
Thank you, Barlow. I think that the secret is in remaining cool, maintaining your composure, and not letting it go to your head.
So very true. So very true. Well, there you have it. Self-control, Engon's secret to success.
Get ready to rumble on the rails. Big ships, big pilots, big speed. You're Connor Rhodes, the hot new rookie on the deadliest circuit in the galaxy. Do you have what it takes to claim the ultimate prize? Real-time rendered 3D universe with 6-axis flight control. Race against the galaxy's most dangerous drivers on over 40 different space rails. Use powerful high-tech missiles, warps, mines, and more. Original storyline with unique characters whose personalities change as the race progresses. Over 50 minutes of cinematic animations which will make you think you're watching TV.
Newcomer Connor Rhodes continues to hold his own. But before this crowd truly accepts him, he'll have to show that he has what it takes to compete against the circuit favorites. And of course, one of those favorites is 5-time champion Guthul Glaherg of Regor 12. Guthul, of course, has been off the circuit for over 2 years pursuing an acting career.
Oh, this is so much better than TV. Listen, I don't have the mental fortitude or will to do the required research into the problematic notion of authorship. But let's just say that since the days of Homer, not that one, Western culture has just loved attributing large collaborative creative projects to one guy. It's almost always a guy, isn't it? And for the most part, it's been total nonsense. Balderdash, just a hunk of baloney. The game industry, being just the cursed exploitative hellscape that it is, and has always been, is particularly guilty of this, even though mainstream games especially are made by increasingly gargantuan teams of talented individuals who all make meaningful contributions to the final product. Or, as the famous IGN quote goes, "There's a tendency among the press to attribute the creation of a game to a single person," says Warren Spector, creator of Thief and Deus Ex. But sometimes, just sometimes, even in a collaborative project, one voice is clearly louder than others. Sometimes one person is not just the director, not just the team lead, the designer, the person calling the shots, but the one with the vision, the dream, someone with a story to tell, a fully formed world inside their head that they just need to make real. We'll get to that world and my entirely speculative take on the mind that created it in a second. First, some history, okay? Mindscape was a... This one's kinda lengthy and boring. I'm just gonna read out the Wikipedia page because it really isn't that interesting. Mindscape was a video game developer and publisher founded by Roger Bowie in October 1983 in Northbrook, Illinois, originally as part of SFN Companies until a management buyout was completed in 1987. Mindscape went public in 1988 and was subsequently acquired in 1990 by the software Toolworks, eyeing Mindscape's Nintendo license. When Toolworks was acquired by Pearson plc in 1994, Mindscape became the primary identity for the development group. Mindscape was then sold to the Learning Company in 1998 and bought out by Jean-Pierre Nordman in 2001, becoming headquartered in France. Following the poor performance of its products, Mindscape exited the video game industry in August 2011. If you go to Mindscape.com as of the creation of this video in early 2023, you'll find the brand being used by a Dutch game developer / publisher / marketer, very much a registered trademark in case you hadn't noticed. According to its LinkedIn page, it does position itself as a successor company to the original Mindscape, so use that information for whatever nefarious purpose you need it. Basically, Mindscape is a big company with a long history, lots of mergers and acquisitions in various directions, and has some connection to educational games. We'll come back to that later. Some of Mindscape and its associated companies' greatest hits include Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing, a bunch of chess games, Contraption Zack, and Lego Island. They developed and published Starwinder in 1996, and other than that admittedly consequential act, they're not really relevant to this story. The game is the product of a singular vision, remember? Let's get to that. Andrew Iverson, the vision haver and subject of this paragraph, studied film production and screenwriting at the University of Southern California in the early 80s. He may have been a visual effects production assistant on the Roger Corman-produced low-budget classic Space Raiders, if IMDb is to be believed.
The last brave starfighters who become Space Raiders.
He eventually found his way to software development, being one of the leads on the Super Nintendo port of Wing Commander and its follow-up, The Secret Missions. He worked on some educational games for the Software Toolworks, including script writing for the DOS version of Mario's Time Machine, which incidentally has the closest thing to an image I can find of him, as he appears in the game as a character. Eventually he got enough clout within what had by then become Mindscape to make Starwinder. We'll come back to that later. After Starwinder, he and his longtime collaborator Henrik Markarian split off from Mindscape to found Starsphere Interactive, a game studio named after the central MacGuffin of Starwinder's narrative, expressing how meaningful it must have been. Starsphere Interactive's work include the PlayStation port of You Don't Know Jack, a Chessmaster game for Mindscape, and helping out with golf courses for a couple of Tiger Woods games. A lot of hard, honest contract work, all culminating with the release of Star Trek Shattered Universe, an arcadey flight combat game for the PS2 and Xbox in 2004, with Iverson credited with game concept, story, design, and programming. Vision Havoc. On the one hand, being able to work on a Star Trek property must have been a dream come true for a sci-fi fan and Trekkie like Iverson, but the game must not have been as successful as Starsphere had hoped. It would end up being their last. Markarian is now a VP for a credit union, and Iverson's internet trail seems to stop around 2004. I won't speculate why, and I have too much email anxiety to do any further research, but I think I've laid down a somewhat credible narrative of a multi-talented sci-fi geek with a vision who got a chance to make that vision real in 1996. Starwinder, the ultimate space race, also known in previews as Starwinder, the Race to Epsilon Indy, also known as Starwinder, the subject of this video, was released in 1996 exclusively for the Sony PlayStation. Its data etched onto a mysterious obsidian disc, the purpose of which will confound future simian archaeologists. Reviews were not great, citing the tracks being short and repetitive, the lack of challenge, and average graphics. One notable exception is this GameFan review, which states with great excitement that it moves at 60 FPS and you never see pixels. Alright buddy, calm down. I also love this review of a different game, from the very same issue, different reviewer, which devotes an entire sentence of its 6-sentence text to bash Starwinder first. I don't have any sales data, but judging by the obscurity of the game, well. But I'm gonna be real honest here for a second, because the show is called Garbage But Interesting after all, and it's really easy to make fun of bad and silly things, especially to an audience on the internet, especially for the always bloodthirsty algorithm. And while I absolutely will do that in the rest of this video, as a creative person who has struggled violently with the seriously debilitating effects of avoidant personality disorder, I have nothing but respect for anyone who takes on the formidable task of taking the ideas that live inside their head and engaging in the epic struggle to make them real. I have nothing but respect for Iverson, the vision, the attempt at making it real, and everyone on the team who helped to make it happen, regardless of how it came out in the end. Okay, now here's a funny FMV again.
Greetings, friends, greetings! In the domain of Gthul Glahurg, all are welcome. It is a fine day for living, and any day worth living is a day worth racing, eh? But while in my domain, why not stop and visit Gthul's all-you-can-eat steakhouse, just off Route 6 on Rego 12. There you'll enjoy one of my famous rib dinners, but please, as always, no tyrannosaurs.
Alright, it's 1996. The PlayStation is out and roaring. 3D games are now mainstream. Wipeout had come out the year before to thunderous electric applause, and the stage has been set for an explosion in futuristic racers that would eventually lead to classics like Extreme G, Roll Cage, and the last futuristic racer ever to be released, F-Zero GX. So let's talk about adversity. All the pieces had come together for the addition of beautifully animated full motion videos to create a narrative setting of an interstellar Grand Prix featuring a variety of species and characters with assorted histories and a TV host quipping wits or whipping quits or whatever. Although reviewers made the obvious comparison to Wipeout, a closer resemblance can actually be found in 1995's Slipstream 5000. An interesting but not quite garbage 3D racer for MS-DOS that also features flying craft and voiced Grand Prix style news broadcasts, but brought down by a sense of humor that's problematic even by capital G gamer standards.
Just the weather, never mind the circuit. Well, you shouldn't have put that snake there then, should you? Oh, good grief.
Yikes. So yeah, Starwinder is a futuristic 3D racing game, but it's a bit of an unconventional one. You're flying, not driving, sure, but that's not what sets it apart. The basic premise of the game is the trench run from Star Wars, except you're racing to the finish line, not the Death Star's wide open butthole. The tracks are all tubes, or various states of half-pipe, kind of reminiscent of Bullfrog's 1995 game/glorified tech demo Tube. The game is structured like a tournament across 11 solar systems, or quadrants, called that because each has 4 races, though I'm still not sure if that's the right use of the term. Tournament might not be the right word either, actually. I think the idea is to average at least 3rd place to be able to move on to the next quadrant, and considering there's only 4 racers total in every race, including yourself, it effectively just means don't finish last for the majority of races. Your main competitor will be that system's local challenger, who you'll get to know a bit better in the FMV interviews. If you do lose, guess what? Limited continues. Not a fan. You start off with a single craft and can unlock 4 more over the next few quadrants, but that's it. They all handle differently, mostly like crap. I stuck with this cartoon fireworks looking thing and that got me through to the end. Check it out, a loading screen minigame. And this is after Namco's horrible, awful, no good patent went into effect. I don't think they licensed it either, so plus points to Starwinder for committing crimes. I was only able to solve 1 in time during my entire run, but let's just assume that's because the emulator loads the game a lot faster than it would from a spinning disc. If you solve the sliding puzzle, you get some extra ammo for that race and the satisfaction of having a big wrinkly brain. So tube riding looks like this. Whatever challenge there is doesn't come so much from your 3 opponents as it does from the floating obstacles and drones that are always in your way. And what you're really doing isn't racing, but just finding the right line and dodging and blowing up everything in your way. They are simple point-to-point races and they take far too long to complete. Littered along the course are various weapon pickups, such as missiles, 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 and missiles. And you will not be paying attention to any of that as you just mash the fire button to destroy whatever is in front of you. If you hit one of the 3 other racers, they'll just slow down. They have weapons too, and when they're riding your ass and hit you, which is all the time, you not only slow down, but also get rotated, which plays into one of the central conceits of the game. Running along the inside, and always the inside, of the tube is a red energy strip which speeds you up when you're close to it and the bottom of your craft is facing it. I think the idea is that it creates a risk-reward scenario, where you strategically choose to ride close to the strip where there's a higher concentration of obstacles and more chance of running into the wall of the tube, or try to take a clearer path or a shortcut, with the trade-off being a serious loss of speed. In practice, there is almost no reason to ever leave the strip, and the only real navigational skill required is correcting your rotation when hit by another racer, or staying aligned with the strip on the rare occasion it does something fancy like a barrel roll. The races are easy, rather boring, with intermittent spikes of extreme frustration and rage. The craft feels fine to fly, although the forced first-person perspective is a bummer, and the lack of analog control doesn't help. There are 3 types of obstacles. Drones that you can easily shoot down, small rocks or things that you can only shoot down 1 at a time, and big ol' asteroids floating in the middle of the track that take a long time to shoot down, and if you're an idiot like me, you keep thinking you can dip right under them. There may be other things actually, like warps and mines, and I just don't care. In the end, the tracks themselves are so constricted, so winding, so filled with obstacles, and so monotonous that there's just not a lot of fun to be had in the gameplay. Just spam the shoot button, stay close to the energy strip, and wait until you cross the finish line, probably in first. This might come as a shock to you, but turns out this is not a good game. Is there multiplayer? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't care. I don't want to go look it up. What am I gonna do? Play it with my cat? He doesn't seem interested. As far as the game's graphics are concerned, oof, yikes. Other words like that. Damn. I summarize the graphics as would look right at home on the Atari Jaguar. It's more of a stylistic problem than a technical one, I think. Yes, the game does run smooth, and while you can absolutely see the pixels, Game Fan Reviewer, the problem is the pixels tend to be muddy, brown, and stuck in a low detail octagonal tube. There are some highlights. Every now and then the tubes have textures that look okay, and the skyboxes, when you do get to see them, are actually really colorful, animated, and give you that space is cool feeling. Of course, if you were sitting in your pajamas on Christmas morning in 1996 and you could tell Grandma's gift was shaped like a PlayStation game case, and you thought to yourself, yes, Grammy got me Twisted Toon Bandicoot Evil, and instead it was Starwinder, a game you didn't know anything about but had this radical box art, and you put it in your PlayStation and booted it up, it would look more like this. No, actually more like this. No, actually more like this. Whether this makes the game look better or worse is a debate I wouldn't dare engage in. One thing I like in concept but that the game kinda screws up is the race start countdown, which consists of a single 3D shape that rotates to form the 3, 2, 1 and then waits far too long after hitting 1 for the race to start. The game's UI is fine, the menus are fine if rudimentary, nothing really sticks out as good or bad there. The music is fully orchestrated and would feel right at home scoring a medium budget late 90s syndicated science fiction show. Sound effects are a thing that exists in the game. The absolute highlight of the game, of course, the reason it's not just garbage but also interesting, is all the fully rendered computer-generated full-motion video cutscenes you get interspersed between the races. Our good friend Barlow Lenz is voiced by John St. John, who you will probably remember for voicing one of the all-time great video game characters, Big the Cat.
Yoo-hoo, Froggy! Come out wherever you are!
The story presentation is charming as hell, sometimes even intentionally, so let's get into that. Space opera is a genre of science fiction encompassing a wide range of approaches and subgenres, ranging from the deep, long, elaborate, and highly political tales of Ian M. Banks' culture novels to, well...
He's a stowaway on a stolen ship, 10 years old and 10 million miles from home. Space Raiders, the greatest adventure a kid ever had.
Guess where Starwinder sits on that spectrum. Either way, that's the kind of story it tells. Story, of course, is a big word. It's a premise, a scenario, a pretense, a shallow narrative environment for the game to take place in with some silly but memorable characters that don't interact with the actual gameplay in a meaningful manner. But it's evocative of a larger world, a vision, an entire literal universe for potential stories. So here's the setup. More than 100 million years ago, a mysterious force placed a number of 1,000-mile-long tubes called rails in habitable solar systems in our galaxy, with the implication being that either their creators knew intelligent life would develop there, or maybe influenced it. At some point these various civilizations, 43 of them, developed space travel and encountered the rails and each other, and were unable to penetrate their purpose other than discovering that proximity to the rail would speed up a craft significantly. Naturally, this mysterious resource would cause countless galactic-scale wars and trillions of innocent lives lost in battle, and... Nah, just kidding, they built a racing tournament around them. Within each rail was found a shard of the star sphere, a crystalline sphere with a mysterious missing piece. Every race won, or is it quadrant, I'm not entirely sure, gives the victor a shard, with the ultimate goal being to collect them all. Then, 500 years ago, an even more mysterious 44th rail was found in the lifeless system of Epsilon Indi, notable because
It contained no gem with which to complete the star sphere.
Because it is different and also the most challenging rail, the organizers make it the final race in the circuit. As is all too common in these games, the manual provides a little more flavor. Sometime 34 years in the past of the distant future, a phrase which I absolutely adore, humanity, a supposedly intelligent species without a rail of their own, made first contact with the rest of the galaxy. Some speculate that the solar system's asteroid belt is actually the remnants of a destroyed rail. How intriguing! Connor Rhodes, or is that Connor Rhodes? Or Connor Rhodes, is Earth's finest pilot and has been selected to compete in the tournament, and due to budgetary constraints will only face the 7 best competitors and race on only 41 of the 44 rails. Look, I don't make the rules, I have as many questions as you do. Okay, let's get through the plot and see if we can answer some of those questions. First, we're introduced to charming interstellar TV personality Barlow Lenz, and we get a quick intro of Connor, described as
An unknown commodity, but Earthmen in general are reputed to be cunning, resourceful, brave, and often foolhardy.
you do your introductory race against a drone, and then your first real race against half-man, half-machine Coax.
A fugitive of war-torn Baton Gatos, Coax was made a cyborg when the machine civilization he had fought against saved his life. Now, neither man nor machine, he is a bitter, determined contestant.
As a few rival characters slowly get drip-fed into your mind-brain before you really meet them. Next is a walking Triceratops,
And of course, one of those favorites is 5-time champion Guthul Glaherg of Regor 12. Guthul, of course, has been off the circuit for over 2 years pursuing an acting career. But Earth has a mystical significance for Triceratops sapiens, and it said Guthul could not pass up an opportunity to race against an opponent from the planet his people call the First World.
a regular human for some reason.
His next race is against fellow humanoid Deanna Stone. But this may be an advantage for Rhodes as well, unless the stories we've heard are true, and Earthmen really have little or no understanding of their planet's women.
Winning the quadrant gets you an intro FMV to the next quadrant location, featuring increasingly exotic planetoids and stellar objects, always zooming into what is presumably Barlow's roaming broadcast ship, judging by the giant dish sitting right atop it. In the second quadrant, we're introduced to more competitors, such as Eyeball Incarnate,
Dextor the Terrible. Viewers will recall that Dextor won the championship last year following a bizarre incident in which the other contestants became ill at a pre-race buffet. A buffet catered by Dextor. His victory was celebrated on his homeworld of Naos with 3 days of heavy sarcasm.
then the sentient ooze shapeshifter Engon,
Reports indicate that the shapeshifter has been sitting back and analyzing the newcomer's style. No doubt Engon is even now preparing to transform itself into Connor Rhodes' worst nightmare. If so, the question becomes whether or not Connor Rhodes will awaken from this bad dream alive or dead.
As you keep winning, Barlow indicates that although you're the rookie newcomer newbie scrub, the circuit veterans are starting to take notice.
His challengers now take him very seriously. And no contestant is more serious than Neuron 9. Unlike anything Rhodes has come up against so far, Neuron 9 does not pilot a space vehicle, it is a space vehicle. Noted for precision rather than flair, if Rhodes is hoping it will make a mistake, it is he who may be fatally in error.
Finally, as we finish up the second quadrant, we're introduced to our most fierce competitor yet, the unstoppable, the incredible, the terrifying.
Zach Kilmer. No one is respected more as a racer, no one is hated more as an individual. A product of the officially outlawed hunter culture of the planet Atria, fans universally hold him responsible for last year's deadly collision between Therion Path and the Clicker.
Oh yeah, give me those gibberish sci-fi space names.
This time, he may actually be more interested in winning than in simply orchestrating the deaths of opponents.
Now that the preliminaries are over, the real championship begins.
Enough of these children's games. You have been impressive so far, Earther, but a real veteran knows the difference between skill and luck. I think you have precious little of either.
Is that a robot mustache? At the start of a quadrant, the local racer will tell us how much we're gonna get our ass kicked, followed by Barlow interviewing them after each race, and them mostly struggling with our loss. Along the way, getting a little insight into their characters, history, and even relationships to each other.
Tell me, Coax, how does it feel to have lost in this very important race?
Oh, you have to learn not to take the individual races too seriously, Barlow.
But surely you must be disappointed.
You either learn to take these things in stride, or you let them eat you up. Losing any one individual race is meaningless!
Well, thanks, Coax. I think that's an important lesson for the kids out there to keep in mind. Things just don't seem to be going your way out here today, Coax.
Don't be too sure. Sometimes it is better to give your opponent a false sense of security in the more important races ahead.
Well, then let me congratulate you on a clever tactical retreat, Coax.
Thank you.
A tough defeat, Coax. You've got to be disappointed in that one.
There will be other days, Barlow. I have some special equipment coming in from the parts planets of Tau Ceti.
Oh, really? Would that be for you or your ship? Well, back to the race. Coax, can we have a word? When did you know it was over?
The ion feeder nozzle jammed open. I lost all control of the dorsal thrust mount just as I was about to break into the lead. If I didn't know better, I'd say it was...
Sabotage? That's hard to believe. No living thing can withstand the radiation near an ion nozzle and survive.
Yes, no living thing.
Then, are you accusing Neuron 9? Coax? Coax?
This is the pattern we'll be settling into. So now that we've seen Coax's arc, let's go through all the others, because you'll mostly be winning and collecting all the pieces of the Star Sphere as you go. Well, you won't because you're never going to play this game, but I did. We next make our way to the dinosaur planet of Regor, where we meet what is probably the star of the entire show, Gthul Glurg, the most affable and optimistic Triceratops in the galaxy, whose only flaw may be having some poorly animated and quite frankly disconcerting mouth flaps, and maybe a slight lack of humility.
What? Improve on me? Why, that'd be like polishing the sun, lad.
Then we face the inexplicably human Tiana Stone from the equally inexplicable half-split open yet connected by a vortex planet. She's,
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to welcome you to the Quadrant. Okay, so you're welcome. They say there's some legend about these rails, but come on, who really cares? Look, we're here to race, so let's all forget this mystical garbage, do our jobs, and get on with it.
She's no nonsense, I guess.
Oh yeah, you're gonna lose.
Also wrong. Also a sore loser.
Well, I guess as our great philosopher, Bryler the Self-Apparent, once said to the people of Apocalypse 7 following their war with Fargon the Insane, losing just never gets any easier. Eh, Tiana?
Oh, shut up!
And as we all know, that's exactly what the people of Apocalypse 7 said to Bryler the Self-Apparent just before they barbecued him.
What's kind of cool is if you lose the race but still place in the top 3, you do see a victory FMV for the winner.
Try flying a Stygian Lancer deep into franchise Cathabian territory sometime. Those boys play for keeps. This is just a game.
And what a game it is when Tiana wins like that!
Quadrant 6 has us facing Dextor the Terrible, the galaxy's most ocular Peter Lorre impersonator. They're kind of a cartoonish buffoon who fancies themselves a supervillain, but props to the game for putting their gender in the manual as Parthenogen.
Your feeble efforts to thwart the tide of history would merit my pity, were they not so futile. Dextor has spoken. My contact lands! Nobody move!
Now we're entering the Ooze Zone as we face Engon, a ghastly green goop globule giving you fair warning.
This quadrant is like nothing you have flown before, for nothing is what it appears to be. I warn you to take care. Only I am at home here. For all others, this is a quadrant of death.
You can guess what happens.
Well, folks, I'm afraid Engon has turned himself into a chair once again following that last defeat. I wish he'd come out.
Barlow! At last I can regale you with a few stories from my military career under good King Halurg. What was that? Anyway, as I was saying, this is one of my longer stories.
And also,
looks like we've just missed Engon, but I think we all have to agree that he was robbed in that last race. Engon performed brilliantly, and if it weren't for the blatant fouls committed by the competition... this has been, Barlow Lens reporting. Now back to the race.
not quite as scary as the intro led me to believe. One thing the game is missing is little fake commercials in between races. So to compensate for that, let me do my own. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and tell your grandparents about me. Today we're facing Neuron 9, a machine who is literally one with their ship.
Fools believe that, as a machine, I am only capable of learning by trial and error. Well, Connor Rhodes, this is your trial, and I will learn from your errors. Every mistake you commit makes me stronger. In fact, since I began talking, I have already defeated you in 87 million simulated races.
Cold, calculated, unstoppable. Except that I'm better at holding the accelerate button.
Neuron 9, it's really gotta be hard to lose a race like that.
Yes, but I have made certain improvements to my operating systems, and I am now extremely confident that these changes will shave off those few remaining errors in judgment.
Well, there you have it. Neuron 9's pursuit of perfection.
I know how happy you all are to return here, but what's past is past. Therion and the Clicker are dead. They were careless. As for the newcomer, I always welcome fresh game. But I warn you, Earthling, I have discovered the secret of these rails, and nothing will stop me from winning the Star Sphere now that I know its power.
The entirely reckless Zach Kilmer, our final competitor, definitely has that intimidating aura, and I'd say it was more of a challenge to beat him, but...
Are there any changes you'll make based on this performance, Zach?
Well, if I'd flown through that observation platform, I could have cut a few seconds off my time, but it really wouldn't have changed the outcome.
But you would have killed hundreds of innocent spectators. Aren't the lives of sentient beings more important than a slight improvement in a losing performance?
Can I get back to you on that?
Anyway, let's go on. We're in the playoffs now. The final four, if you will.
Connor Rhodes has done it! He has emerged victorious in each of the domains of his challengers. Now, all that stands between him and Epsilon Indy is Quadrant 10 and the playoffs.
Here we actually have to finish first in all races to continue. I have no idea what this rock with ruins floating between two ocean halves of a bigger rock is meant to be. I was supposed to do some research to figure out if your three competitors are always the same or actually based on the standings of the entire tournament, but would you look at the time? All three of them give you the business before your individual races, but at this point, do you still think they're at all threatening?
So, it seems you have some new tricks up your sleeve, eh, newcomer? You'll need more than tricks now. The Star Sphere will show me the way to the greatest prize in the galaxy. Obstruct me, and be reduced to your component atoms.
Well, well, look who made it this far. I'm glad to get my chance with you, Rhodes. Now we'll see if you're a real racer or just another shooting star. And don't count on me for any more help. I'm fresh out of favors for inexperienced boys.
Attention, Earthling. I give you fair warning. You are now racing against the galaxy's preeminent brain. Retreat now, or suffer the ultimate humiliation of defeat at my hands. Dexter has spoken. Is that it? Are we off the air? Just great.
Winning the playoffs grants you entry to the final race at the mythical Epsilon Indy Rail, in my case against the fearsome Zach Kilmer, but who knows how dynamic that is. Although looking back at these FMVs now, the fact that Kilmer claims to know the Star Sphere's true purpose would lead me to believe he is indeed hard-coded as your final competitor. The final race is breakneck, exciting, thrilling, a complete departure from everything that has come before. Just kidding, it's the same as always, just with ugly animated lightning textures. And now you've done it! You've placed first in the tournament, and all you've got to show for it is bragging rights and an incomplete Star Sphere. But what's this? Connor Rhodes had the final piece of the Star Sphere hidden in his codpiece the entire time? The completion of the sphere leads into an extended cutscene where we follow it as it shoots through the galaxy.
Repeating our top story, today's champion, Connor Rhodes, has unexpectedly left the area at an extremely high rate of speed.
Remember those rumors about the asteroid belt?
My God! He's actually flying through the asteroid belt! What's that ahead of him? What is he following?
Looks like the stories were true and it is a secret rail.
It's a rail! It's a rail! Earth's asteroid belt is the missing rail!
Connor does the only thing he can do. He rides the rail as fast as he can, jaw as slack as can be.
Connor's speed is beyond belief. If he can just hold on a few more seconds, he's almost reached the end of the rail. Turn, Connor! Turn! Turn!
Well, so it goes. That's where Connor's story ends.
No trace of Connor Rhodes, his ship, or the Star Sphere was ever found. There was no possibility of reconstructing the rail to find out what happened. Why the builders of the rails should have gone to all this trouble to kill a single man would forever be a mystery. But there are some who say that Connor Rhodes found out that in that last moment before impact, Connor Rhodes discovered the secret of the rails.
Wait, can we rewind that?
But there are some who say that Connor Rhodes found out that in that last moment before impact, Connor Rhodes discovered the secret of the rails.
There are some who say that Connor Rhodes found out that in that last moment before impact, Connor Rhodes discovered the secret of the rails? What's up with that phrasing? Anyway, the end? No! Let's look at what happened from Connor's point of view.
And with the arrival of the newcomer from the Milky Way galaxy, the simple elimination round can begin. Gentlemen, start your engines!
That's right. The purpose of the rails was indeed to race all along, just as a smaller part of an inter-universal racing circuit. I look forward to seeing how this develops in the sequel. Then we hit the credits, where we get the Epsilon Indy subtitle instead of The Ultimate Space Race, and we loop back to the creators of this vision. And I think you'll agree with me that there was a vision here, but we'll get to that. I still have so many unanswered questions though. Why does the game make such a big deal about Connor Rhodes being the first human to participate in a tournament when the host is just a guy, and there are at least 2 other humanoid racers, one of which is explicitly called human in the manual? Why was Engon so scary in his intro but such a buffoon in his interviews? How and why did the civilizations of the galaxy modify the rails into racetracks when that was their purpose all along anyway? Why does Connor Rhodes look like Fabio Skywalker on the box art but like a generic enemy in a particularly mediocre first-person shooter in the game? And finally, the most important question of all, where can I get some more of that Cthulhu Glahurg? I was a Nintendo kid growing up. This wasn't a game from my childhood. This isn't a matter of nostalgia here. I found this game while streaming old racing games, and it was in fact the origin of the name Garbage, but interesting. And look, it's not a good game. It doesn't feel good, certainly doesn't look good, and while the vision is clear, the translation of it to the screen is, you know.
I don't think Dexter is going to be too happy with the outcome this time.
Well, it was a good race, Barlow. I guess my best just wasn't good enough out there today. Better luck next time, I always say.
Why, Dexter, I can't believe you're being this gracious. If I didn't know better, Engon!
Hi, everybody!
But I can't help but admire the attempt. I admire the vision. A fully fleshed out world, various civilizations, twists, turns, jokes and japes. It can get a little too silly sometimes, I think. It's using a lot of humor to hide insecurities, much like I did in high school, but don't at all do anymore now. But if this exact same story had been wrapped around a better racing game, it wouldn't be a candidate for this series. I'd have to come up with a new title like Kinda Dumb, but not that bad really, which doesn't really roll off the tongue. I do have some candidates in mind for such a series though. So should you play this game? No. Do I have to say it out loud? Come on. But if you did want to, well, the game was released exclusively for the PlayStation. The game was released exclusively for the PlayStation. The game was released exclusively for the PlayStation. Yeah, this'll work. Damn it. There we go. The game was released exclusively for the PlayStation, so play it whatever millions of ways on whatever millions of devices you can do that, alright? I got a physical copy of the game just because I'm enjoying starting a small collection. But guess who couldn't find the manual for a game online and uploaded it to archive.org for the second video in a row? That's right, it's your favorite accidental game manual preservationist, me! But this game, there's something about it, you know? It's not good, but there's a lot of enthusiasm and heart and soul you can feel emanating from all those silly FMVs. There was an attempt at an innovative, new, different racing game. Clearly there's the bones of an entire universe to tell some stories in. But yeah, in the end, it's garbage, but interesting.
and don't blink. It's time. Ah, shit. Last damn light.